everybody's car can be different. There's no like spec series. In Spec Miata, everybody's car's the same, give or take some things, but more closer together than, say, the Camaro world. And so was able to really compare myself to people.
Green flag.
Welcome to the Blind Apex Podcast, where amateur club racers tune in to get faster.
This episode is brought to you by Deechworks Fuel Systems. Visit deechworks.com and use Apex 10 to save on fueling your passion. On this episode, I want to talk about going slower to eventually go faster. And joining me, he's a recovering mullet mobile driver. He's a fly fisherman, at least when I stalked him on the internet.
This is true.
Little sim racing. And he's converted himself into a Miata racer, which is not normally who we like to talk to on this podcast, but we okay with that. Ayden Westbye, welcome to the podcast.
How you guys doing? Excited to be here and talk about my dramatic change in life that not a lot of people do.
Yeah. There's some reasons not to drive a Camaro on track. Usually it's not. Well, I don't even know what your reason was. But so I saw your post. I think it was on Instagram. Yeah, so I reached out on Instagram and then you were like texting me. And so that's how we got this going. And I was like, you know what? This is ridiculous. Who in their right mind is going to give up 400 horsepower maybe to go down to the whatever Miatas put out on a good day?
The one I've been driving, so I'll say this as a disclaimer too. I'm renting it, but I'm going to be, the team that I'm renting it from is new and I was new to it. So we've been kind of working together too. And I'm renting through them all next year too. But I think when he dynoed it, it was like 113 horse.
Oof. Okay.
Not even competitive, but you know, we're getting there.
You beat those squirrels harder. They go faster, I guess.
Yeah, but we got the hamsters and the wheels going.
Yeah. So, okay. Let's start before the Camaro. Where did your love of motorsports come from?
So, I'll say, I come from a car family, and there's an auto shop that I actually currently work at that's my grandfather owns, and he used to drag race back in the day. And so kind of introduced me to that. Like I grew up watching drag racing, like John Force used to be my guy. And then when I started to get around like driver's license age, like 14, 15, getting ready to, get my driver's license, kind of started thinking about like the concept of people like turning in different directions. And so that kind of led me to like IMSA racing and stuff like that. And I've always been and that's when I really started being a car guy too. I'm a big muscle car guy. I love Camaros, Mustangs, old, especially 60s muscle cars. I'm a huge nerd about them. And so that started to develop. And then I started watching more IMSA racing and stuff. Then I bought my Camaro about a year out of high school. That one dumb purchase that you make out of high school or something, or like in your 20s kind of. I did mine when I was 18, which I bought a Camaro, a 5th gen 2012 SS, the 6-speed manual. And so, as a lot of people do, I kind of said, hey, this car's pretty nice. It's got some power. I think it's the nicest thing that I've ever drove. I thought it cornered nice then. I'll tell you different now. And I'm like, hey, let's take this thing to the track. Our local track, it's called Burt Brothers Motorsports Park now. It used to be Utah Motorsports Campus, and before then, Miller Motorsports Park. It's our local Utah track. It's like 40 minutes away from where I live. And so I said, hey, let's take this out to the track. They offered like this little track day. The track had like their own track day type thing. You pay $75, you get an hour of driving. And they had like a novice group too. So they wouldn't let you do like lapping sessions. You got to do pit out and pit in basically for an hour. And you just line up and keep doing that. And I kind of bit the bug. I started out just going to experience the car and what my car could do, and realized I wasn't great at the driving part. And now where I'm at is I go out there to really work on my driving and be the best driver I can be compared to experiencing the car. But anyway, that's kind of my intro to motorsports and all that fun stuff.
So, okay, that's interesting. Well, I probably, with the way cars are, like most of these newer muscle cars are coming out with 300, 400 horsepower off the brake, right? Like
good, decent power, like really good power.
Yeah, the Camaro, the Mustang. God forbid you get yourself into a vet or, but they're heavy, right? So they're
so heavy.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about what it was. Did you only do that one event, or did you start doing more events?
So I did that one event, and then I sucked at it. I'm like, man, I gotta get better at this. I gotta go back out there, because like literally I didn't know how to heel toe downshift or nothing. I was like clutching into the corners and doing the brake.
Some people don't heel toe, and they're very fast. But carry on.
But I had no clue what I was doing. I play like racing games too, like Forza, whatever. And I was always pretty decent at those. Like, I'm not like a guru. So I thought, hey, I can at least get around the track. I struggled doing that, remembering the corners. And then so it kind of evolved in this thing. So I did that in November. I think it was 2021. And yeah, November of 2021. And then around, I think it was June of 2022, I went back out to the track and did another one of those through the track. And then I did like 3 or 4 of those in 2022, getting better, and eventually working up to like where I could do the full lapping. They had like a beginner and an intermediate thing where you could do, and the intermediate could do just continuous lapping for an hour. And so I worked up to that. And then at the end of 2022, I kind of heard about this organization called NASA, the space place. No, they do race cars. They race, and they can give you an instructor. And I was like, oh, sweet. So I can get track time and an instructor for a decent deal and get some tips. And so I started doing NASA. Then the year after that, I went full NASA, did our local organization is NASA Utah, and did almost all the NASA Utah events. And then I've just been doing basically NASA stuff. And then this past year, 2025, I made the switch over to the Miata. I did one event in the Camaro. I did one event in March, just a little send-off before I switched over to a different type of thing.
So let's talk about the pros and the cons of the Camaro.
So I'll start off with the cons first, because I do like my Camaro. I still own it. I am trying to sell it. Shameless plug. But so I kind of just jotted them down real quick too, a general couple bullet points. First thing I want to talk about is the weight. It's with me in it. It was 3,975 pounds. Oh. Yeah, that's heavy.
2 tons.
And yeah, almost 2 tons. Hey, I know a guy who tracks a Challenger, and I'm like 300 pounds lighter than him, but he makes it work, so power to him. But it's back to the cons. It's really heavy. The consumables on it too, which that's kind of a go figure when I say heavy with high horsepower. Eating a lot of tires and brake pads, obviously. And with the weight too, I feel like that can also be if you want to, let's say you want to build a TT Camaro, which can be done. People have very nice time trial Camaros or time attack Camaros, whatever you want to call it. You're going to be spending more time dealing with that weight and maybe more money, like buying carbon fiber hoods or trunks or doors, whatever you want to do. And what else did I write down? It's a 5th gen too. And this is specifically for the 5th gens. It seems like for specialty parts, like specialty 5th gen parts, they're phasing them out more, and companies are discontinuing them more as comparatively to the 6th gen and the Camaro just got discontinued. Like, there's still some stuff, like every car you can get performance, like a little suspension kit and stuff, but it seems like they're phasing it out and all that fun. And yeah, that's all what I have to say for the cons. Heavy consumables, but on the pro side, which actually, what's your opinion? Can I ask you kind of like, what's your general consensus on Camaros, like thoughts, opinions, and maybe concerns?
I mean, my biggest concern with the Camaro is if you're going to drive something that heavy, you're going to eat tires, you're going to eat brakes, you're going to be hard on equipment, right? Just because it's that heavy. Literally the only concern I ever saw and heard was from some of like guys who were racing them with cages and stuff, that they modified in the pro levels, they modified the roofs of these cars because they needed the extra hatch, because a normal person can't fit out of the window with their helmet on in case of emergency.
Yes, I have seen this. I've seen cars, you can do the hatch, or some people do like a trimmed down door. They get custom door panels that are trimmed down. And I think you could fit through, well, okay, everybody's different. I'm like 165 pounds soaking wet, very skinny. So I take that back what I was going to say. Yeah, it's pretty narrow. And especially if you have a helmet on, I don't think you could get out with a big helmet on either.
Yeah. Well, so when I was in the tech shed, I literally, one of the guys in the tech shed was helping manage and run an IMSA team. And one of the Camaros, early new gen Camaros, I should say, came through the tech shed, and he goes, "Con, go over there and check his helmet and try to pull it through the window. Don't open the door." And the helmet without a person in it, I could not manage to like wiggle it through the door or through the window opening, because it was that small of the driver's side door. So I had to open it. Yeah, you might be 165 pounds, but most of the helmet.
Well, the reason I knew about my helmet not fitting in before I knew about the doors, because you know, when you're like doing stuff at the track and you have your helmet somewhere and you're like, oh, I'll just chuck it in the car real fast so I don't have to deal with it. And I tried doing that with the window down. This doesn't fit. This isn't safe.
Yeah. So other than that, I mean, they're big. I don't want to call them bricks, because obviously they've done some good things with these cars, and they're fast. I've seen very fast Camaros out there. I don't hear, the only other thing I hear about is ice mode.
Yes, I never experienced that. Maybe the way I use the brakes, I don't know.
Yeah, so other than ice mode and the helmet issue, everybody had pretty good things to say about them. And it's heavy cars aren't for the faint of heart, right? And heavy, fast cars aren't for the faint of heart. I can only imagine how fast you're going down a straightaway in a Camaro versus the Miata per se. You know,
I'll say this. So, Burt Brothers Motor Park, we have like 3/4 of a mile straightaway, which pretty big straightaway, and the Camaro is doing like 130 on it, 131 on a good day with like some nice cold air in the morning, and so doing 130. Then I switched, and big brake zone at the end. It has a fast left-hander, and then I switched over to the Miata and I did so that you can run different layouts too. And so I ran both a layout without the big straightaway, and then I ran both the different layouts that don't have the big straightaway. And then I ran the big straightaway, and I was kind of like, oh boy, you know, I got to kind of mentally prepare myself for this big straight like I had to do in the Camaro. And I go up to it, and it was nothing. Going from like 110 in a little light car, oh my God, I can stop for days. It's like locking up the wheels in it and having a good time, trying to figure out the braking point and all that stuff. But anyway.
Yeah. So, okay. So I actually have a question because you spin wrenches for a living. So
Yes.
what, and you have somebody you're renting, so you're not maintaining the Miata per se, but what was the maintenance like on the heavy car other than consumables? Were you changing fluids more often? Were you boiling brakes? Did any of that stuff occur?
So I forgot to mention the brakes and the cons part. Another two cons. Don't worry, I'll talk up the Camaro after I'm done with this. But the brakes are another big con. I did end up boiling the fluid. I boiled it. I had Mott Tools 600 in there, and I had like 4 30 seconds, 3 millimeters of pad life, and I was only doing a day. It was like they had like this weird little half day makeup day thing because we got snowed out. And that'll be fine. I had a Hawk HP Plus pads, and that'll be fine. I boiled the fluid, and just the brakes on it, like the HP Pluses, they seem like with just the regular stock caliper and rotor combo, they seem like they bite really hard initially, but it's not like stopping you any better, if that makes any sense. And they make kits like AP Racing makes a really cool kit, and if I won the lottery or something, that's the first thing I'd probably buy. But yeah, they're good. You can you can get by in the beginner and novice areas with them, but when you start getting up to like intermediate and advanced, you were gonna start noticing the difference for sure. And the other thing too is, so they went to electronic power steering unit in 2013 on the 5th gens, and this is like 2010 to 2012 specific, is hydraulic power steering. I read on forums when I was starting out, just kind of getting some research, and hearing about people's power steering pumps going out and them like having leaking racks after a track day. So I never experienced that because I made a rule, like every track event, I had to do a power steering flush with conditioner. I was like, even if it was like a little autocross power steering flush. And so I never had any of those issues, but I have definitely heard a lot of people having those issues and people putting like manual steering racks with no assist in them because of that.
That, to me, that seems like an epic amount of maintenance to deal with, but
yeah, it was. Well, so disclaimer too, like I could use my place of work on, they were nice and let me maintain the car there, and I'd put a sticker on the car, obviously, just that little trade-off. And so it wasn't as bad to do maintenance because I had like a rack and stuff. I'm sure if I was doing it like out of my garage, as a lot of people do, it would probably be very difficult and very strenuous. Let's see, so what I do before every event was, just going off over my head, my maintenance. So before every event, I would do a brake flush. I would do Mott Tools 660, and that seemed pretty reliable. Didn't have any issues. Power steering flush. And every other event, or if it was a really hot event, like a 100-degree day in July or August or whatever, oil change, new filter, obviously. I would do the trans fluid every 3 events, along with the diff fluid. So kind of like almost halfway through the year, I'd do that. And then the coolant once a year, and just the front brakes, they would last. You could probably maybe do 3/4 of a year on them. I was only doing like, let's see, I think the most events I did was like 7 events in a year with the Camaro. And so they made it through like half the year, 3/4 the year. And then the rear brakes, actually, you can get away with like a year and a half on them, every other year. They didn't wear as much, and I think they still wear. And I was also doing the rotors too, because they just get heat cracked, and I ran DBAs. I should have not done that because they weren't the best. They're their T3 line. I did a lot of things. The tires would last. Okay, the tread wear, if you set it up right and do whatever kind of half-arse track configuration you can with a stock suspension setup, you can get I could get about 3 events on the tires before cording them. But the grip wise are like completely out the window by probably the second day. I was running Goodyear Eagle Supercar F3. Jeez, I forgot what they were. Actually, hold on 2 seconds. I have like literally a tire behind me. I want to read what it is. Is that okay?
Sure.
Where is it? Goodyear Eagle F1 Supercar 3. My apologies.
No, you're
Goodyear
good.
Eagle F1 Supercar 3. I don't remember if they said F3 Supercar 1. I had a dyslexic moment there, but anyway.
Yeah. I mean, the Camaro is just a big girl, right? Like
It's big, heavy. Like when you're like in a big braking zone, like over 110 miles an hour and you're stomping on the brake pedal, like it feels like your head's going to come out of your helmet.
Well, it sounds like
just with all that weight shifting around.
Well, so what are the pros of this car?
So the pros, I would say, are, first of all, let's start off with kind of the generic one, especially if it's, I think we're talking about newer, this is kind of a new gen Camaro thing, like 5th to 6th. Maybe we'll get a 7th if we're lucky, but I don't think so. Maybe.
Unlikely.
Please, GM. Pray to the GM gods on that one. But LS powers, that's a pretty big solid, big aftermarket for those engines. And they have I think they have a pretty solid powertrain in them. The 2SS compared to the 1LE, this is on the 5th gens. The 1LE has some different rear gears in it, and I think if I was going to keep tracking my Camaro, that'd be definitely one upgrade would be looking to do, is to get those 1LE gears instead of the 2SS gears, because it's pretty long-winded, but depends on the track for that. It was nice on the straightaway, but not nice on little corner-to-corner straightaways. But the LS is big aftermarket. And you know what? The suspension was pretty reliable, and it is a heavy car, but, I rallied it over the curbs pretty good. I never did a wheel bearing in it. Constant shakedown after, every event. Would go do a full shakedown, full check over, and the wheel bearings were pretty sturdy. The suspension, never bent or anything or broke anything, knock on wood. So it was pretty happy with that. I don't think it's a bad learning car. You can have really bad habits with the power it has, but I think the weight almost kind of tones that out. It's maybe not a great car to start being competitive and going up to time trial in, but it's okay. I put it, if I were to bad cars, okay cars, and great cars, the Miata would be a great car to learn in, and the Camaro would be a okay, good car. So, and that, I like the way they look. Some people don't. I'll put that as a pro. I'm fond of it. The Transformers, the mid-2000s Transformers movies did me in on that one. And another thing is they come with manual Tremec transmissions. Pretty solid, especially for a street car. Yeah, I think that's all my pros for it.
So you talked about it being pretty good and it's being heavy and that you could learn in it, but you did make the change, right? So was it just consumables that drove this change, or?
So it's a couple. So I'll put it under 3 reasons. So reason A would be that in a Miata, especially spec Miata, is that there's a lot of room to grow. So you can do time trial in them. There's a big wide, other than a Porsche, I think Miatas are more popular than Porsches on tracks. that's debatable. Depends on the region, depends on the area. But Miatas are super popular, so you have room to grow. Like, you can go race spec Miata in them, and there's also this huge community around it, and you can kind of get driving tips from that. And like, there's the Mazda Teen Driving Challenge, which I'm young. I qualify for it. You have to be under 25 to do it. And I'm going to be doing that. So there's a potential of like me to maybe make this a career. We'll see. I'm young and dumb. We'll see what happens with that. But not putting all my eggs in that basket either. And then my second reason was the consumables. The Camaro is just heavy. I'm tired of buying tires. Like, you can do most of a really heavy, like really track heavy, lot of events Miata season. You can probably get a good amount of events in on a set of brakes. The tires you can make last. Like, they obviously do run out of grip. So the consumables is my second reason. And my third reason is really, again, to take a step back and make myself a better driver. And so this, we'll probably get into this more, but a little tidbit is when I was in the Camaro, I would, I think, on a sim, or like if I was driving if somebody let me take their car around their track, I'd prefer a car that's more understeery. And I was kind of an understeery guy. Now when I get in a car and I get in a sim, I'm like, I need that back end to start rotate. I kind of more lean over to oversteer. And that's just kind of a little example of how it's changed me into a better driver.
So I'm trying to word this correctly, but all right, well,
if it sounds bad, you say it. It's okay.
No. Well, I'll go down a different route till I figure this question out. But so you didn't do no racing in the Camaro. It was just track days, right? So
yeah. So if you're familiar with like the NASA ranks, I was HPDE 4, and I got approved for time trial, and I dynoed it and kind of classed it in time trial, but I just knew the price that it was going to be to make it competitive in time trial and take out all that weight was not going to be for me. But I had my TT license and just ran HPD 4 just to get the seat time, because I was wanting to make the change, but just nothing was really coming to fruition. And so I just decided to keep tracking the Camaro for another year. I was ready to probably make the change in 2024, and it didn't happen until 2025. But anyway.
You don't have to give me... Well, how much money is renting the Miata saving you? Or is it saving you?
I haven't priced it out.
Okay, that's fair.
But so it's saving me a good amount of money in consumables, I would say. Like, but also I'm going to be moving into race group. Mm-hmm. And so that might be a different story, because I'm probably going to want to be more competitive. And that involves maybe buying new tires, which...
More tires also, more often.
Yep. Also, the driver mod, big time. Still have some work to go to be super competitive, but it's definitely saving me money too, I think. And also another thing, kind of a tidbit about rentals. So I work on cars all day. I repair them. That's my job. And so that's kind of not the thing I want to do at the end of the day. The nice thing about having a rental is now that I can take that time to work on like my physical fitness, running on the sim, trying to be a better driver, researching all that fun stuff. But anyway.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's talk about, you hinted at some of the stuff, or at least learning that you liked or learned to like an oversteery car. What else has the Miata taught you?
So another thing too is I ran 200 treadwear tires on the Camaro just because I was doing track days and wasn't trying to be in a competitive sense. Just I was competitive with myself and very focused on my self performance and improving my lap times and improving myself as a driver. And that's kind of how I've been since I started driving with NASA. But another thing is that I switched over to race slicks, and there is a difference between street tires, like 200 treadwear, 100 treadwear tires, and a race slick. So learning that, like, I think it was a great car to learn the feel of that and understand how those tires kind of feel and work.
What tire are you on in the Miata? Because I'll tell you, we were talking a little bit before we hit record, and the two modern 200 treadwears are usually better than most of the what we would call an R comp or a slick, right? So what tire are you running on the Miata?
So we are Toyo Proxys RR, and then I did an SCCA race this year, and they were on Hooser. They were on a Hooser, whatever the spec Miata Hooser tire is.
Right,
Look it up.
right.
I don't remember it off the top of my head.
The Hoosier's definitely better than the 200 treadwear, but the Toyo RR, you said you were on that Eagle, so they're probably better than the Eagle, but there's other 200 treadwears that it's not as good as.
Yeah. I started out on the Cup 2, by the way, but unfortunately, Cup 2s are pricey, and when I started out, I wasn't going fast enough to tell the difference or know anything to tell the difference.
Yeah. Okay, so you like the oversteery car, you're adjusting to this thing, but what are you able to focus on in the Miata that you couldn't in the Camaro?
So another thing is too, it's a lot lighter
Mm-hmm.
and it has less power. So I believe every car is a momentum car, but you have to drive this one with more momentum per se to get the lap time. And it just really taught me to be okay with having the car like dancing more and like able to kind of get the rear to kind of start to rotate a little bit more aggressively just because of how light it is. As with the Camaro, it felt like you're turning in and being really nice with letting the weight kind of set and roll nicely. And with the Miata, like, it feels more go-karty. You're kind of like popping that thing and getting it to slide. And you're just another thing of just going faster and getting your foot off the brake pedal, trying to get it off sooner and sooner, less and less brake, going faster. So those are kind of the big general things.
Go ahead.
Oh, continue.
Well, so I would assume like the Camaro's so heavy, it's obviously longer than the Miata, right? If you get that thing to break loose, it's probably going to be harder to hold on to than the Miata would be.
Oh, yeah. Like, for an example, and this is just me going off my experience in my field, but the Camaro, I'll talk about the rear tires, as soon as you got like the body to roll and like you got all the weight to roll over when you're cornering, you had like way smaller window when you're going to lose grip as compared to the Miata when you get like the weight rolled and stuff. And this could be the slick tire and a number of things, but you have like a way bigger window, and the car's also way more comfortable to like slide and rotate. It's just because of that lightweight. So yeah, you're right. The weight and controlling a slider rotation definitely inherits, and they're pretty understeery because of the weight too. And that I could have got some fancy go fast parts and changed the setup and made it do what I want. But from a stock perspective, understeery as most street cars are.
I mean, that's technically the safer route, right? But yeah, so once upon a time, my car threw an engine light and it took me out of VTEC. Okay. So we actually measured it on the dyno, and instead of having 200 horsepower, I now had 160 horsepower. And me being me, I was like, to heck with this motor. If it blows up, I'll buy another one. I'll put it in the car, right? Like, it's a Honda. They're around. The engines are still around for my car anyway. But during that race where I went into essentially a limp mode that wouldn't give me VTEC, I was concentrating on things like you said. Okay, how deep can I go into the braking zone? How early can I let off if it's not one of those deep threshold brakings? How early can I let off? How much can I carry to the apex? How much can I go from apex to exit? I needed to maximize every mile an hour because the car was so slow, right? And I started feeling things or paying attention to things like what my tires were. I was feeling the tires where I think I was just driving before. And that one race really helped me a lot. So I can imagine that if you took, what'd you do, 3 or 4 years of the Camaro, and then you go into this Miata, that there's so much, it's slower, right? It's so much slower. You can take in a lot more. You can start absorbing the car and feeling the car, I would think. 20 miles an hour at the end of that straightaway at Miller or whatever it's called now. That's how old I am. It was Miller Motorsports Park when you were in kindergarten, by the way.
It changed, and now they've changed. They changed the name all the time.
Right.
The Utah track.
Yeah, the Utah track. Yeah. 20 mile an hour difference is gigantic. I wouldn't even know where to start braking. I lost 40. Yeah. I mean, I lost 40 horsepower, and I was like, okay, I can take my braking in a little bit, but there wasn't a whole lot. Now I'm notoriously terrible on the brakes, so that's probably, not a good idea, but there's a lot that forcing yourself to slow down or taking advantage of your car being slow, as long as it's not going to blow up, or you don't care if it blows up, will teach you. So. Yeah.
And another thing I'd like to add too, just about the changeover from the Miata is, and this is spec Miata specifically, is so the Camaro world, there's no spec Camaro series. There should be.
If
anybody wants to make that, I'll race in it. I got a car. But
trucker hats required.
Mullet has to be combed and permed in tech. We will be checking.
Yep. Whiskey bottles out the window when you come off the track. Yeah.
Maybe one divorce for driver requirements. I'm not sure. No, just kidding. It's a bad joke.
All right. We could go. We could really be bad. We'll just
bad.
Stop the Camaro jokes now.
I'll say this: when I bought my Camaro, when I was my senior year in high school, there was a little mullet resurgence, and I graduated and kept my mullet. I had a mullet when I bought my car. I'll text you a picture of it. You can put it online. I don't care.
Oh, no, it must be used as a promo picture.
It will. Do it.
Okay.
I have no shame. But anyway, back on topic. And so specifically in the spec Miata thing, a Camaro, everybody has all sorts of random stuff done to their Camaros. Even if you have the same car, some guy might I have Detroit speed coilovers and I have a cam in it, where I was pretty stock. The only upgrades I did were another thing is you do need to do a couple things to keep the oil cool. So I put an oil cooler in it, hood vent, and the brakes, and it was pretty reliable. But everybody's car can be different. There's no spec series. In spec Miata, everybody's car's the same, give or take some things, but more closer together than, say, the Camaro world. And so I was able to really compare myself to people, and that's kind of, and give me a way to measure how I'm coming, how good I'm doing in them, as lack of a better term, and being able to talk to these people hey, what are you doing for turn 7? Because I'm not doing great at it. Give me or being able to share data and all sorts of fun stuff.
Yeah, you are able. That's one thing. Bill and Vicky from Garage Heroes in Training, she has a Miata, the spec Miata, specifically so she can be in a class where she can closely measure herself against others, because they normally race in lemons, and there's all sorts of stuff in lemons, to include Camaros, not newer ones, but old fashioned Camaros, catfish. I saw one catfish Camaro, at least at Summit Point. I did.
Is it the one with like the leprechaun on it? I follow them. They seem pretty fun.
I don't know if they had the leprechaun on it. I know it had no hatch in it, but you got to sell some stuff off. Yeah, lemon things. So it's just, yeah, they're an interesting group. But so let's talk about who you think should look into stepping backwards, for lack of a better phrase.
So I will think, unless you've already stepped backwards, like you're starting out in a Miata or whatever, or what's another less horsepower light car, like, oh geez,
Specky 30.
Specky 30.
They're faster than Miatas, but slower than others. I mean, all the spec series are all BMWs, right? But once you're at spec 3 with no space for Taylor, they're pretty fast for what they are. I mean, actually, they're really fast for what they are, in my opinion.
They get cruising with those things.
They love slip angle. That's all I got to say. There isn't a time they aren't sliding around everywhere. So, yeah. So, say like spec 3 and below, but spec 3 is pretty fast in the grand scheme of things. So,
yeah, anything below like spec 3 speeds, and this isn't just for weight either. I know we've been kind of being on weight, but high horsepower cars, those can lead to really, really bad habits. And really, I'm going to say this is maybe a bad answer, but I think everyone should take a step back, even if you have already taken a step back. Like, let's say I move into a faster car. Hint at the next question. But just take a step back and refine the basics. Basics. And I also think it's good just to like switch and get a different feel for cars. Like you were talking about you losing horsepower because your check engine light and having to drive a race different. What happens if you just went and got your buddy's car that had less power and just try to drive it as fast as you can? So I think if you want to perform as a driver, it's not a bad idea to step into something a little slower or something different, Maybe if you're a Miata guy, go hop in a Camaro and see what it's like to slowly squeeze the throttle instead of, stomp on it. Just kidding. But I will say that there are some muscle car guys that I've ran across that maybe taking a step into Miata would turn them into a better driver. Or like a Toyota 86. I think that's a really good starter car. Toyota, they have the GR program.
I think the GR is way faster than a Miata. Way faster. But
it's not as crazy and heavy as a Camaro, though. It's more... No, it's more closely related to the Miata than the Camaro, I would say.
Yes. We see them a lot in like ST5, ST4 trim in NASA. So like 12 and a half down to 10 and a half ish to 1 power to weight. And
they get cruising.
They have amazing for McPherson strut. Well, I think McPherson strut front wheel drives are the only bad McPhersons or bad. I say that in quotation marks, but spec 3s on McPhersons, the GRs, even the FRS BRZs, like those things are hauling the mail,
Yeah.
So, but it's definitely different. It's light. It's nimble. It has amazing ABS. Those guys are doing things on the FRS BRZ ABS. I'm like, did they put in the BMW stuff? Like, what is going on? But yeah, they're a good car. It's probably a pretty big jump if you've only been in Miata, though. But
yeah, it would. And that's kind of to the point, like you're saying, it would be a pretty big jump. And so let's say let's say you're a club racer and you've only raced Miatas, and your buddy gives you a chance like, hey, we're going to go race WRL and my BMW that, I don't know WRL classes off the top of my head, but it's faster than a Miata. And so you're not completely off guard, go drive, if you get a chance, go drive something else, or maybe rent or arrange to drive something else, just all in the name of making yourself a better driver. But I will also say, I was back to my other point, a lot of muscle car guys could benefit from, like, especially if you start in like a crazy fast car, like a ZL1 or a Z06 Corvette, which, there's nothing wrong with that for doing it for like a little bit to get your first taste. But I think it would be good after to maybe step down to a way slower car, if I'm being honest. And let's say you've been tracking I know a guy who's been tracking his ZL1, and he's been getting different. He got in a BRZ, that's why I use the example, and just all in the name of making yourself a better driver. And there's no shame in it. I think you're going to get a pat on the back rather than somebody frowning at you if you step down.
Yeah, but I bet if he puts a little time in, like work in that BRZ, he's probably going to get pretty close to his Corvette times, or his Camaro times. So,
yeah, I agree. You're probably right. But just, a different car too. Oh, I'm trying to think just off the top of my head. I was beating up on the muscle car guys because I am one and probably still will be. I think other types of, like, if you're there's people that go buy a Porsche and go take it out of the track too. Again, I think it's like, if you're doing like your first day ever in it just for fun or just to kind of get a taste, I don't think it's the end of the world. Like, yeah, preferably you want, if you're like looking at it from an instructor standpoint or a coaching standpoint, you want your beginners to start out in a slow car to teach that does the basics well. But in the real world, that doesn't happen. I think it's okay to start out in those types of faster cars for like your first day or so. Just be careful, obviously. But I also think it'd probably be a good thing if you want to do this long term and develop yourself as a driver. Take that step back into something slower and more rudimentary per se.
Yeah, I think the Porsche guys are kind of hosed because there's nothing directly correlated to their car, at least to the, the mid-engine rear-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive setups that are on those cars. So
914s exist. I don't know how that's compared to a new GT3. I'm sure it's miles and miles and miles apart.
I mean, they exist, but you think we have problems finding parts for, Miatas are supported, but like just in general, Matt Romanowski, shout out to him from trailbreak.com. He's got a 914 that's not much 914 left to it, but it's probably out of nerdness that he doesn't, but also because he would never find all the parts. So,
yeah, I think people that have those have a big, genuine love for them, looks and all.
For sure. So, okay, let's talk about at what point will you look to leave the Miata and, for lack of a better phrase, get into a real car?
So what I would say to that is, obviously, if I have the opportunity to get in a faster car, like somebody's asking me to go do an enduro or something with them, I'm going to jump into that. But from like my planning in a perfect world where sunshines and rainbows and puppy dogs is when I've completely mastered the Miata, like where I'm struggling, where I'm at a really good competitive lap time for the car I'm in. And I, ring it where I know I'm wringing its neck and I just can't find any more time in it, or I'm just finding like little tents here and there, like completely utter master at it, no better way to say it. And that's when I would like to move into a faster car. And I do want to move into a faster car too, but I haven't really been focusing on that since I'm so kind of dove headfirst into the spec Miata world and try to do good in that.
So you don't have any daydreams of like a GR Cup or any of that going on in your head?
Okay, I take that. You didn't say daydreams. If I could move into any faster car, I think it would be fun after like getting pretty good in the Miata to move into like a high downforce something like if I won the lottery or get adopted by the guy who owns Aston Martin F1. I know Lance Stroll's his son. What's his dad's name? The guy that owns it.
I have no idea.
Anyway, have more financial means, which
right.
I try not to talk about too much because I think that's like anything all club racers talk about is money and racing, but it is what it is. And I would like to race F4. I think it'd be really cool to give like F4 a go, one of those junior Formula Series or the NPO1, which is probably way more accessible. Those would be pretty cool to step into. And then, maybe that will be my goal after the Miata is mastered, is maybe try and find a car with downforce that I can track and do all that fun stuff and learn that car.
Are there any NPO1s running anymore?
We have like 5 in Utah. There's 2 consistent and 5 that come out through the year. And they're pretty popular in WRL, I think, too.
So my one thing is you're already in the class that generally has a lot or is a highly competitive field. I won't say a lot. I remember the days when there were like 30 or 40 Miatas at a regional event. They aren't that many, but there's still 10 or 15 usually. That's what you want to be. 5 is not enough because
this is true. Also, I will say we have a lot smaller community here in Utah. And so you probably want like a good size field for us. I'd say it's like 8 cars, as sad as it is to say. Also, come out and drive in Utah if you live in the Western United States. I think our track's pretty awesome. But yeah, we don't have as big fields. I know what you're saying too. There is not that many MPO1s around. I don't know how many there are back east either in the other regions.
There were a couple that showed up to Hyperfest a couple of times. I just don't see a bunch in the Mid-Atlantic region. I know at Nationals for NASA, there were 4 or 5. I just don't see a ton, and they're really, to be honest, they're not cheap.
They're not cheap. They're, for what they are, they're cheaper. Cheap and race car don't go together, but they're cheaper for what they are. But compared to like an average everyday Joe like me, myself, hello. Yeah, they're not. They're more expensive. Like you can get a lot more bang for your buck with spec Miata. Also, you mentioned competitiveness and competitive fields in spec Miata. This little side note, I really have my work cut out for me because the NASA National Spec Miata champion, Lincoln Larson, he raced in our region. And I just kind of feel like all of our spec Miata guys here in the Utah region, they are been doing it for a long time and are all really, really good. So I think we definitely have pretty competitive region. And this is comparing to like, I went and raced SCCA Milwaukee and they had good guys that would compare to our NASA Utah guys, but it didn't seem as competitive as out here.
All right. So is there anything else we need to talk about? You mentioned you'd made some notes. So are there any other notes we should cover from you?
Do you want to talk about rentals and race cars for a minute and kind of your thoughts and opinions on that? And
yeah,
I'll share my thoughts and opinions while we have a little bit of let
me hear what you have to say about them, because I waffle on it because I want to know. I'm totally afraid to ball up somebody else's car. That's point blank. So
that is a risk too. So if you're going to do a rental, you have to, again, you have to evaluate your risks. Like, kind of, if you total the car, you're probably going to be buying it. So that is a risk. But on the other side, too, is, and that's worst case scenario. Sometimes, you have to buy a bumper, door, whatever. If you mess up, knock on wood, drive safe out there, everybody. But let's talk about the benefits to a rental. I think, first of all, there's not commitment. So if you want to go racing by yourself, you have to get a truck, a trailer. And if you want to be competitive, you have to get all the stuff to set it up or have a friend to set it up for you, like scales, string alignment, all that fun stuff. The rental, they normally all take care of that. And that can be a con to a rental too, is luckily the place I'm renting from, 89 Motorsports, shout out to them, Tim and Amber, they're really awesome. I appreciate them a lot. But you might not be getting like a perfect competitive setup.
Yeah, there's that. You got to pay to play, right? Because generally the basics have a lower price, right? And then when you need more support, you're going to pay for more of it. When you need a more competitive car, you're going to pay for it. We'll talk spec Miata. There's a reason spec Miatas that win championships sell for $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, right? And there's a reason you can buy one for 10, 15, they're usually wore out, and not massaged.
Tired, bolts aren't up to date, don't have a fire system update, all that fun stuff. And then another thing for rentals too is, so you've talked about your race car not running. And let's say I'm going to make a makeup scenario. Let's say I have my Camaro all torn apart in the garage. I'm building it into some car. I'm probably not going to do that, but let's say I am. And well, that's
you're not. It's for sale.
Oh yeah, it is for sale. Do that. Buy it before I do that. Let's say I have my race car all torn apart, but I still want to work on my driving. That's another thing where rentals can come in. And let's say you're teetering on getting into another class or something. If there's a rental available for that class, go try it out for the weekend and see if you like it. Again, no commitment. You don't have to buy all the stuff for it and buy all the parts and crap for that. You can just go try it for a weekend. Now, it gets different when you get in the long term, because I think let's say over a 10-year span, you're probably going to be pay more if you're doing just rentals as compared to owning your own car. And you also get to know your own car better and make your own decisions.
Yeah, so I had an episode early on season 1 where I talked to Kerry Rouse about, he was renting a Spec B car. And I know it's a Spec B, so I think they were renting Mazdas. But I compared that to my Honda Challenge H2 spreadsheet. And I think we were paying about the same. So our price per weekend seemed to be about the same, if I remember correctly. And I realized the car speeds are completely different, right? But he was getting catered everything,
Yeah, that's the other thing too, is sometimes they have catering or kind of set you up, little driver's lounge action, and you just you pay your money, show up and have a good time, do all the little drivers things you need to do, like meetings and getting your gear checked out, and they mostly take care of the rest, which is another benefit. And you might be paying for that too as well, but it depends. It's especially, I really like renting, again, because I don't have to prep the car or work on the car, which I do enjoy doing that. I did enjoy doing that to my Camaro and doing all the stuff I did to that and working on other stuff when I get to, but I don't always want to be hustling and trying to set it up. I more enjoyed working on myself as a driver.
For sure. For sure. So is there anything else we need to cover with you in the renting? Any pros, cons?
If you have any thoughts about it, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it, actually.
Okay, so I totally get where you're coming from. And I totally get where there's people who are busy enough that don't have the time to prep their cars. Okay. And maybe this comes from my motorcycle riding mentality. And maybe it's because I have friends who spin wrenches for a living who dislike having, I mean, they're the only two guys I trust to work on my stuff, but they also dislike side work, right? Like they just, if they're done with the day, they don't want to do it. And I totally understand it. Put it. But at the same time, when I was riding motorcycles every day, I didn't want somebody touching my brakes, right? On a motorcycle, there's so much that can go wrong if they don't tighten things down appropriately. And I wanted that responsibility on me, right? I wanted to know, I mean, I safety wired my street bikes, so it's pretty, that's how crazy I was about not trying to have this thing fall apart underneath my legs, So, but it translates to the race car because it's hard for me to let go. Like, I want to know I did my best to get it ready, and I have a trust problem. So
it's kind of like letting somebody else drive. I know a lot of, like, when you're driving down, like going to get groceries or whatever, like when I let one of my friends drive, or we hop in the car to go somewhere, my girlfriend drives somewhere, I have a trust issue and I'm like freaking out, like, you're not braking hard enough or whatever. So it's kind of that same trust issue. And I totally get that. And I will say, as a side note too, I got really lucky with who I'm renting the car from here. Is they have given me a great car and I feel I trust them. And his name's Tim Stewart. He has a big motorsports background, has worked for a couple of pro teams and worked at a bunch of cool auto shops and stuff like that. And after running a season with him, I have a lot of trust in him. So I have that going for me. I did rent another car this year too, and I felt okay about it. I didn't feel like the wheels were going to fall off, but I totally get where you're coming from too. And especially just that sense, like knowing you did it and that if you mess up, it's your fault. You don't have to deal with all the repercussions of if somebody else did it.
Yeah, it's sort of, man, I don't know. It's sort of like dating, right? Like you got to find the right person or the right team or the right shop to rent from.
Yeah. I got lucky first try.
you got a mesh and vibe. That's how I feel about it. Anyway, that's my thoughts on it. I love owning my car, even though sometimes it doesn't love me back. But I'm proud of what I've been able to build, develop. It's different because I'm not in a spec class per se. I'm in a balance of power class. So
yeah, and that's another thing about people that I didn't even think about builder classes. There's people, that's what they like to do. That is awesome to them. People that turn wrenches. I know some people that are fabricators turn wrenches and they run the ST classes that are more builder classes or whatever, or grid life. And they love to build their car and work on their car. And that's okay. But maybe while you're working on that car and it's not running, you can go snag a rental. Just kidding.
So the secret's it's not a secret, but I stalk the rules committee all the time. It's out already. And I was kind of disappointed, because there weren't a lot of changes, right? I think the most that would impact me is like, I don't get to take 50 pounds out of my car. Okay. That doesn't excite me because there's nothing for me to do over the winter, which isn't a bad thing, but part of me is like, I always want to tweak. I always want to improve. I want to take this rule and go, okay, what can I do to my car to make it better? So you know, I'm always trying to work on myself, but I like tinkering. It's what I do. It's just one of the things I like to do. So,
And, you know, we're racing for pieces of plastic. You know, we're not changing the world with this stuff. So I think it's completely 100% awesome that you don't have to be like wanting to be the best driver, but having the best car, as long as you're safe and don't give anybody else grief. I think that's awesome that we're allowed to do that in club racing. Honestly, we can have the best of both worlds, and kind of everybody can do what they want and be happy, which I think is super cool.
For sure. So we're going to it's not cat out of the bag early. This is going to be the first podcast in season 4. Okay. So that means we have a new segment. We're done with the old segment. Okay. We're not doing racer excuses anymore. I want to know if you had any track car, ABS or no ABS in your car.
No ABS, just so I can tell people that I don't use ABS when I'm driving it super fast, and I sound super cool when I say that.
Okay. All right. That's fair. In your Camaro, were you trying to threshold brake, or were you riding the ABS in the car?
When I first started, I was riding the ABS, and then threshold. So you really couldn't. I was trying to brake as hard as I could without getting into the ABS, and I wasn't perfect at that. I'll be honest. Like, I would probably get into the ABS like in like a 20-minute session. I'd probably get into it like 3 or 4 times, but most of the time I was trying to just brake above that, or like in turn 1, I just let it do its thing. But it's not like the best ABS system, so that's why I was trying to avoid it with the brakes. It's little kind of spotty, and I think that's where a lot of guys got into ice mode too.
Oh yeah, that's exactly where you're going to get into ice mode, but the trick is disabling it. So this year I did a terrible job last year, and it's bad because I'm do stats and analytics for a living. So I want to track it this year. So we have one. We're leading off with 1 for no ABS. So we'll start counting.
I'm gonna die on this no ABS hill.
Okay. Well, we'll see where at the end of 2026 where it actually ends up. Ayden, it's been a pleasure, my man. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story and your thoughts on moving backwards. I think it should help some people. If it doesn't help them, well, they're not going to be helped anyway. So
this is true. I'd like to really thank you, and I had a really good time. I love talking about race cars, and really appreciate this opportunity of letting me come on and ramble about all the crap in my life that I do with cars.
Absolutely. This podcast we try to get a little technical, maybe a little into the head of the racer, but in the end, it's a conversation between 2 people who really enjoy motorsports, and I try to keep it as casual as I can. So,
well, thank you, and have a good night, good afternoon, or good evening. Or I already said good night.
It's
good night, good afternoon, or good morning to whoever's listening to this. Thank you.
Until next time, keep working on yourself, keep working on the car, and let's get faster.